Hey folks, welcome back to the show. For those of you that are new, my name is Luke, and today I wanted to highlight the three main disadvantages of using soldered splicing for automotive electrical repair. Let's get started. The first disadvantage I wanted to go into is the principle of wicking. And what we're going to be looking for is solder creeping up underneath the insulation and causing kind of a brittle long joint here. Because that solder is not going to be fully wetted into the conductor strands, it's going to be a really weak joint. And so if that joint breaks, now we have broken conductors up in here. I'm using this cheap speaker wire because the insulation is clear, and so hopefully it'll show up somewhat well on camera. But I'm just going to go ahead and wet my conductor. I'm not using any flux right now either. I want to fully populate. We've already had it creep all the way down to here. So now we have a joint. We're going to let this cool. We're going to have a joint that's not able to bend to here. And then we have conductor strands that are not fully wetted with our solder that are now really brittle. It's susceptible to vibration. And that's the environment that this kind of splice is going to live in. Let's take a look and see where we can actually bend our wire. So you can see, even though this is the part that we populated with solder, it has wicked all the way to back here and caused a weak joint. So that's something to consider. If you're using a cheaper insulation like this, the solder is never going to make it all the way back to the insulation and fully environmentally seal this the way that we would think when we go to make a solder joint. Because that's the other thing that we think about too, right? Is like, oh, we'll solder it, we'll heat shrink it, and then it'll be completely sealed and it'll never corrode. If you're using cheaper wire with cheaper insulation like this, the solder will always melt back this insulation. Let's try it one more time with Flux, just so we can address, any potential questions down in the comment section of like, well, you didn't use Flux, and if you did use Flux, I don't know. We could see that flux wick up into that insulation though. That's the main point of this whole thing, is wicking. I've got my iron pretty hot. I think if anything, the flux will help the solder wick up under the insulation even further. I mean, that's its whole job, right? Yeah, we can see it creeping up under that insulation. When we look at this, we're like, the solder's fully wetted the conductor. We managed to get it way further back this time. And, we always think like, the more flux, the better. The thing about flux too is it's really corrosive. And I know that we're not all out there cleaning off every little speck of flux. I know a lot of us are just leaving it on there if we're using it at all. And how that flux will interact with the insulation, who knows? There's a few different types of insulation that are floating around there in the automotive world, depending on the genre of vehicle that you're working on. Let's see if it's affected the joint. A bit more. Not as bad that time. I mean, it's in there. That solder has worked its way up. Those are gonna crack and break. It's not the strength that you would see here. So that's the first major point. Just a quick note too, that we're just gonna point out in all of this. I'm sure a lot of you, like me, I'm not saying I'm above this, I've done all of this and never had any problems with it. You're not allowed to twist those together before you tin them. It's an automatic compromise of the splice. So what you would do in this situation, after you have these tinned, you could use a piece of conductor and wrap it around at least 3 times nice and tightly, just a single conductor, and then solder that whole thing. And that actually would be a somewhat decent splice. So I'm sure that you noticed that, okay, this is like brand new, super shiny, beautiful looking copper. In a real world scenario, that's almost never going to be the case. By the time that you're in there, and I'm sure maybe some of y'all already know where I'm going with this, we'll use Flux too. When we're working with solder, that's what we want our copper to look like on the right-hand side. We want it nice and bright and clean and shiny. And what we're seeing on the screen, this is most likely kind of, at least in my experience with what I've been working with, when I go in to do like a splice or a solder repair, something along those lines, it's often going to come back a bit darker like this. You can see corrosion has already started to work its way in. When we try to actually apply solder, it's not going to wet nearly as well. It's not going to want to take. See how it kind of just floats on top there? When we tin our stranded conductor, I mean, we should nearly be able to see every individual conductor because the solder has just soaked right up into it. Let's give this one some more love. I mean, you're going to sit here all day. You know how far back you're going to burn this insulation because you're just holding the iron on here? See, it should want to float all the way back. And it's just sticking right there. And this is really good fresh solder. Let's throw a little bit of Flux on there. Okay, the Flux came in and did its job, but it still doesn't look amazing. I mean, look at, we burned the insulation. I was holding the iron on there. I mean, this is good automotive insulation too. It takes a lot for it to get all crowded up like that. This is some really cheap PVC. Notice minimal burning. It was able to populate very, very quickly on this conductor. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And if you can imagine, if you got to go in there and you got to do, you know, 7 or 8 of those, you're going to be there a long time trying to make that happen. Let's go ahead and lastly, let's do an official splice. I'd really recommend looking up IPC 620. And that is, all the people got together and were like, this is going to be how you manufacture and repair electrical harnesses, all the way down from like your toaster to a spaceship. This is how we want to see it done. How's that look? That don't look too bad. All right, and lastly, okay, we did our splice. This is how you're actually supposed to splice stranded wire. You're not supposed to twist them together. I know you've been doing that forever. I've been doing it forever too. I learned the rules, okay? And this is what the rules say. You got to play life on life's terms. So we've done our splice. It should have cooled off by now. We can see, okay, we've lost some of the flexibility in our wire. And do our heat shrink. All right, we nicked it a little bit. We got it. Okay, no punctures so far. I don't know if you noticed, but I purposefully left one of the conductors that I used to wrap it kind of just poking out. And depending on your soldering technique, the solder that you're using, the temperature, all that stuff, it can be really easy when you pull away the soldering iron from your fresh solder. It can leave basically like a little barb. And what that barb can do is eventually work its way through your heat shrink, and now it's no longer environmentally sealed. So like you can see we have this adhesive lined double-walled heat shrink that we're using here. I mean, I know I burned it there. We'll just use this side. And so this thing is supposed to be sealed permanently from the elements. And if you have one of those barbs poking through, it'll rub through eventually and it'll cause you problems. Here's a lot of the downsides. They may or may not apply to your specific splice. We've got wicking, we've got wetting, and we've got sealing is what I basically broke it down to. Those are the main issues that we're gonna be running into. And also, soldering takes time. It takes patience and time to make solid solder joint. You know, when a wire breaks or something like that, it's gonna be buried deep down in that engine bay. Okay, so this is a closed barrel crimp splice. All I have to do is make sure all the strands are in there. I can feed it all the way through, and then we just want just a little tiny gap between the barrel and the insulation. Just a little tiny one. How's that look? That looks pretty good. And then we just get a pair of crimpers. I'm telling you, at first, I wasn't a fan of like the whole crimper, barrel, all that stuff. I didn't really know much about it, but once you get the hang of it, I mean, because soldering has a learning curve too, you know, and I think for crimping, it's a lot easier to be way more consistent. It mitigates all of the disadvantages that we have with soldering, and I think in the long run, once you get the hang of it, it's way easier. So now look at this. It doesn't matter how corroded the wire is. I'm not going to have any wicking. I'm not having any problem with wetting. This is a strong mechanical bond and it'll last a really long time. That's the case against soldering. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I've got a whole bunch of, if you're learning electrical, I've got mostly electrical testing videos. Let me know down in the comments and I'll check you on the next one.